What is good, everybody? Bet and breakfast on Saturday, June 4th. I'm Reed Wallach. Alongside me is Donovan Smoot. And boy, do we have a few series on our hands here. NHL in the conference finals, NBA finals, game one. The Celtics rally to take game one from the Golden State Warriors. I mean, talk about some shocking series so far heading into the weekend. We're going to get you set with all that. A few best bets Saturday UFC. We got started at 1 o'clock Eastern, so afternoon UFC. Donovan's got a best bet on the French Open men's final tomorrow morning with Rafael Nadal going for his 14th straight. But Donovan, what's up, man? What is your, biggest takeaway from, we'll start with Thursday night in the finals all the way to now. What is kind of your biggest takeaway from a crazy kind of May in sports right now?
My biggest take is that nothing's going the way that I thought it was going to go, and that I thought that I knew. Listen, I pride myself as being somebody who knows ball, and from Thursday night in terms of game one to game two in the Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL, everything's just gone completely awry. So I'm hoping that like the weekend will be a good spot for me to get back, but it's a lot. Listen, some crazy stuff happening out here, man. It's really really ridiculous. To cite the great DeMarcus Cousins, it's getting ridiculous out here.
I will say I don't think, because I know myself, and we'll get into the NBA finals after, but I think we both had the handicap right on the Warriors game one. The Celtics hit 7 threes to start the fourth quarter. You just can't. I wouldn't say people that had the Warriors were dead wrong or something, and we'll get into kind of initial thoughts on what we saw and takeaways. But I don't think you don't know ball because of that. I don't think it's not like the Celtics came out and they won by like a clear victory. They kind of were in control the whole game. Then it's like, all right, maybe this guy doesn't really know ball. But I will give you the benefit of the doubt, and we'll get more into Warriors Celtics probably in around like 20 minutes. But I want to start with maybe you don't know puck, because I know yourself and Ian both had the Lightnings winning fairly easily against the Rangers to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. They go down 2-0, and granted they were on the road, but the Lightning were around a minus 175 favorite going into this series. They lose game one big. They lose game two last night at Madison Square Garden 3-2. They got a late goal to kind of pad that score line. But it's 2-0 Rangers now. The series odds have flipped. Rangers now minus 170, minus 250, at WinBet. Lightning minus 170 in game three. Donovan, what have you seen in the first two games? Is this over? You think they get back into it? Both games, the next two games are in Tampa Bay. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So one, it's not over. At the end of the day, and like if you're ever a fan of any team that goes down 2-0, you just say, listen, they did what they had to do at home. Now Tampa Bay has to go back to Tampa and take care of home ice. But the shocking thing is just the fact that the Rangers have pulled out these two games, because if you look at the numbers, and especially in game one they win 6-2, but if you look at like the high danger scoring chances, Tampa Bay won that. And there's a lot of numbers that if you look at it, the Lightning should be up 2-0 right now. And the Rangers are just that team, and they've done it this entire postseason. And I backed them in the last two series because of this, and I faded them because I thought that the Lightning's experience and just championship grit would kind of take over. And it hasn't yet. But the Rangers have been that pesky team to just find ways to win. And I'm very shocked. I'm very shocked that they're up 2-0 right now. The Lightning, they were my best bet last night. Lightning money line, they were minus 130 to tie up the series. And so I'm very curious to see if Tampa Bay is going to go down 3-0. I do not think that they will, but I mean, at this rate, anything's possible because New York is just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, momentum, it's a real thing. And, I saw this, the Lightning, they sweep in round two while the Rangers go to 7 with Carolina. And, again, I'm not the biggest hockey guy, but it seems like there was some rust for Tampa Bay in that first game, and it kind of gave New York an extra shot of life, who just played, earlier this week. They kind of rode that high into game one. They put 6 goals on the board. And then in game two, even, I mean, Tampa Bay scores first, and the Rangers, no fear at all, just respond right away. Igor Shesterkin's obviously playing lights out hockey right now, just absolutely insane hockey. I'll give him, a pass on that last goal, extra man and everything. So, I mean, listen, credit where credit's due to the Rangers. I'm not going to say the series is over. I am curious to see, the Rangers, the younger team, Tampa Bay, obviously back-to-back champions. They got to win these two, of course, get this even. But do you think that there's a little bit of value getting the Lightning at 2-1 odds right now to win this series, considering they are going home? Obviously, if they lost the first two at home, this would be obviously a different series. But it's not over till a team wins on the other team's, home ice and all that stuff. So technically, the series hasn't started yet. Is there any kind of hope for you that the Lightning could get back into this?
No, listen, there's a bunch of hope for me that Tampa Bay can get in here. The script is kind of flipped in terms of everything that New York has done all postseason. Like they came back down 3-1 in the first round, and then they came back down 3-2 in the second. So this is the first time that they're like actually in the driver's seat. But if you look at Tampa Bay was down 3-2 to Toronto in the first round. So they've made comebacks. They've had series where they've had to win 2 in a row, and they've already done it. And listen, stuff like this happens when you're chasing a three-peat, right? Everything's not always easy. Sometimes you get into positions that you're not supposed to be in. And so again, like you said, and this is really what I'm banking on, all they have to do is go home and take care of home ice. If you can win in Tampa Bay and make it a 3-game series, that's all you need, because I think that if this gets to a game 7, which likely will have, it's likely the outcome of this, Tampa Bay has the championship experience, and eventually, like we're talking about all this like momentum and like this intangible stuff, Tampa Bay has the intangible advantage in this series. And so if you can get to a position where those things are like the differentiator, yes, Tampa Bay still has a lot of value in this series.
So let me right now, I know you still think Tampa Bay is going to come back and win.
Yes.
So now broader question. Let's say the Rangers do win. If you had to pick the two teams that are going to win the cup, is it going to be either Colorado or Edmonton, or Rangers and Lightning? Like if you had to pick conference winner, basically, which duo are you taking? The winner of the West or the winner of the East?
I would.
Like, let's say the Rangers do win. Do you buy this like team of destiny stuff that they're just going to kind of run away with?
No. If the Rangers win and they get to the Stanley Cup, they're going to get skated off the ice. Because Colorado and Edmonton's offense is just crazy. And you see it every game. Like last game was a little bit different, but because it was 4-0 from Colorado. Mm-hmm. But it's every single game, it's nonstop action. They're putting a lot of pressure on these goalkeepers. And so you've seen New York a bunch of times in this postseason get into trouble because the defense is allowing too much pressure to be put on Shesterkin. And Colorado and Edmonton are going to do that the entire series. So I think if they end up playing New York, I'll take the West. But if Tampa Bay comes out, then I'll take Tampa Bay.
Okay. No, I completely agree. I kind of lean towards the West Coast Avalanche and Edmonton. Also, I just think the speed advantage is a little too much for either New York or Tampa Bay. Because Tampa Bay, I mean, listen, winning a three-peat is tough. It's
hard.
It's tough. But, yeah, definitely interesting. I'm interested to see where that series kind of goes now with the Rangers kind of throwing the first punch. They were plus 150 despite having home ice. So I'm interested to see where that goes. But let's turn to what we kind of started this with the Celtics rallying 40-16 in the fourth quarter at the Chase Center to knock off the Golden State Warriors in Game 1. Celtics win as underdogs in Game 1, trailed for it's kind of back and forth, but early it was Warriors. Celtics end up taking a 2-point lead at half. Warriors third quarter, typical kind of an avalanche. Now Celtics up to 1-0 with a Jason Tatum bad shooting performance. We're going to get into that in a little bit and talk about individual pieces. But Donovan, overarching thoughts, Game 1 takeaways, hit me with it.
Before the series, I had Warriors in 6. I am still on the train of Warriors in 6. And the one thing that kind of scares me is that I've been I've been yelling and losing my voice all postseason because I've been yelling at the TV saying like this is not the Celtics. Like they just get hot at random times and find ways to win these series. And there's a whole bunch of games I could point to where I could be like, that's not them. Apparently, this is who they are, and they're just going to do it whenever they need to. So I have to kind of account for that. But I look at game one, and you're telling me that like you have a bad Draymond game. Clay wasn't there. Gary Payton still didn't play, and Jordan Poole was disgusting. Like his performance was not great. You have all of that, obviously. You have the Celtics going crazy. But if you're going to tell me that Derek White is going to shoot 5 of 8 for the rest of the series, and Al Horford is going to shoot 7 of 8, Marcus Smart is going to shoot 4 of 7, okay, fine. Like I will bet anything that they will not shoot that way for the entire series. The Warriors were in control of that game up until the start of the fourth. I feel very good about Golden State's prospects for the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my biggest takeaway is that the Warriors have a shot creation problem. It's how outside of Steph Curry, where are the points going to come from? Where are people going to set the table for Klay Thompson, for Andrew Wiggins, Otto Porter, even Draymond Green? Like Jordan Poole, to me, I was nervous about his role in this series because his defense is an issue, and he was exposed last night or 2 nights ago. I looked at like the on-off numbers, and I thought I was like, wow, Poole's numbers with Steph off the floor are going to be like egregious. They were just bad overall. Both him with Steph on, Steph off. It didn't matter. He was just bad on the floor. So there's nothing really to take away from there. But if Poole's offense isn't even going to just like negate his bad defense, the Warriors are in big trouble. They need, because where is the shot creation going to come from outside of Steph? Because outside of the first quarter, where the Celtics were playing drop on Steph, they were giving him just 3 after 3. He had 6 threes in the first quarter, I'm pretty sure. After that, and they started switching on Steph, Steph didn't have as much wiggle room to go around. So I am a little nervous for the Warriors and how they're going to get their offense, especially if Poole's not going to be able to play well. Because on the other end, granted, I'm still not super high on the Celtics offense, and you make a lot of great points about shooting regression and everything, but they're going to find there are more holes in the Warriors defense than there are on the Celtics defense, if you know what I'm saying. If the Celtics are just going to play switch, I think that they're going to be able to keep a lid on this Warriors offense to extend at least to win 3 of the next 6 games. It's where are the Warriors going to find that extra gear outside of Steph? That's what makes me a little nervous. That's what I saw. It was like, all right, it's kind of just Steph. And if it's not Steph, who else is it going to be? Because Klay's not beating anyone else off the dribble. Draymond shot 2 of 12, and I don't really trust him to begin with. I think it is going to be a big Otto Porter series. I think Wiggins is going to have some answers. I'm not counting the Warriors out, but definitely a game you can't blow. You had that game. You need to just, that's what it comes down to me. I'm not going to say the series is over or anything because, like, big series, long series. I could see the Warriors kind of, like the Celtics kind of giving away game 2. We also have seen a very inconsistent team, but that's a tough loss to give away there.
No, it's a very, very tough loss. And I think,
and I don't want to sound like cliche narrative-y, but like you blew that one. You can't
get
that back.
No, they did. And I think one of the things that, like, coming into the series that I absolutely knew was going to happen because we've seen it all playoffs and we've seen it kind of historically. Jason Tatum is going to give you one stinker in the series. And so like outside of the shooting, I'm more frustrated, that the Warriors blew that game because it was a bad Tatum game in terms of shooting. And so how he performs in bounce back games. So I'm expecting Tatum to come out in game 2 and have like a 30-point game or something like that. But for the Warriors, and you mentioned like the shot creation stuff, I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with how everything was going because 2 things. One, Grant Williams on the other side. Grant Williams is not playing good basketball right now. And his minutes, he played somewhere around like 16, 17 minutes. I actually see those going down. Robert Williams to start the game off, you saw it in the first 3 minutes. He hurt his knee and he was limping a little bit. Yeah. So like Robert Williams may not be as big of a factor as we've seen. And so now, like, if the Celtics go small and they start shooting that way, okay, by all means. But if both teams are small, then I like what Golden State has, right? Because now we're just playing their game and they are very, very comfortable doing that. And so, like, I expect Draymond, even if I would not expect Draymond to, come out in game 2 and have like 6 threes or something stupid like that.
Yeah, he's just not that type
I,
of player.
yeah, and I don't care about the threes from Draymond. What I do care about is you can't go 0 for 3 from the free throw line, and you can't miss floaters. You can't miss bunnies at the layup. Those are the shots that you have to make in order to take that lead from where it was 13 points at the end of the third, or they were trying to push it up. You take that lead from there all the way up to 17, 18, and now maybe at the start of the fourth, you know, things look a little different. Boston may, wave the flag a little sooner, and then you get out of there with a win. So the shot creation, while I understand why you see it as an issue, I'm not too worried about it because I do think that there are a couple holes in Boston's defense that whenever they do end up switching, it's not gonna be as big of an advantage for them.
Yeah. So two things you mentioned. I thought again, I didn't have a strong take on the series. I was moderately bullish on the Warriors' chances because I'm concerned about the Celtics' health going forward. Robert Williams does not look healthy whatsoever, and it showed. I did very, very small sample, but in the 19 minutes with Steph on the floor and Robert Williams on the floor, it was not pretty because Robert Williams doesn't switch. He plays a bit of a drop, and that gives room for Steph to operate off the pick and roll. He had a nasty step back on him also, I believe, in the fourth quarter. It was just 4 minutes, so I'm not saying like this is some nasty takeaway, but in 19 minutes or something with Steph on the floor, Robert Williams struggled. They had like a minus 25 net rating. With the 4 minutes of Steph off, the Celtics had like an 85 points allowed per 100 possessions. So clear change there. And Robert Williams, I think we start to see his role a little mitigated. And while Grant Williams may not be the answer, maybe they even size down with just Al Horford as the lone big, and you go like with like Derek White. I do think Peyton Pritchard could hang on the floor in this series just because speed, shoot a little bit. So maybe that's where the Celtics go.
If Poole can hang on, listen, if Poole can hang on in this series, then Pritchard can hang out.
I do wonder if the Warriors stick with Looney and Draymond at the same time because that's two non-shooters. It just makes the Celtics a little bit easier, makes it easier on their defense where maybe Marcus Smart starts guarding Draymond and like just kind of completely ignores him and says, okay, if Draymond's going to beat us, let that happen. And then that's just more attention to Steph and Clay. So a little bit of a chess match. I do think we do see Robert Williams' role slowly diminished. Maybe he only plays when Steph is off the floor and the Celtics start to size down. And that transitions very well into my finals MVP talk because we'll get back to Tatum, but I want to talk about Al Horford because he's still 11-1 to win finals MVP. Comes off a 26-point outing, 9 of 12 from the field, 6 threes, huge down the stretch. He's kind of the heart of this team. He's the veteran leader. He's 11-1 to win finals MVP. If Boston wins this series and Tatum, who's probably going to shoot better, he shot 3 of 17 in game 1, did dish out 13 assists. It just feels like if the Warriors are going to sell out to stop Tatum, which they did, and they forced him into a lot of tough looks, but then the Celtics are going to move the ball around and get open looks for guys like Horford, guys like Derek White. Isn't Al Horford going to get that narrative boost as the veteran, as the heart and soul of the team? I think Jaylen Brown at 6-1, granted Jaylen Brown played great in game 1. I don't see Jaylen Brown getting it over Tatum. I do see Al Horford getting it over Tatum if this trajectory stays the same. And we'll see what happens. I want to kick that to you because I played Al Horford to win MVP. I think that's a solid bet. Tatum is plus 130 at WinBet. Jaylen Brown plus 600. Horford 11-1. It's worth noting Steph Curry still plus 150. He's kind of tied to the Warriors odds. But if we're talking Celtics, I think that there's room for Al Horford to continue to improve his case as the series goes on. I know you like the Warriors, but let's live in a world where the Celtics win the series. Do you think Al Horford has a chance?
No, I think he's very, very live to win. Because and I can't remember when you had said this, but the thing with Brown versus Tatum and the ranking pre-series was Tatum, Brown, and then I think Horford was third on the list in
And like
terms of Celtics.
smart, like stuff
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
somewhere around there. And you had mentioned it. Brown and Tatum, in terms of styles, they do the same thing, right? So Brown would have to be significantly better than Jason Tatum
Mm-hmm.
the rest of this way. And Jaylen Brown just hasn't been that guy kind of all playoffs. This entire playoffs, he's only gone over 24 points 5 times,
There's a
right?
stat right there.
Right? Jason Tatum has obviously the capability to go for 30 any night. We've seen him have 45 in the closeout game. Like when we get down to these moments of who's going to step up and take these shots, Tatum's going to be the one. And so if the numbers are kind of similar, then if you start going into like the narrative area, then Tatum is going to be there. Al Horford is the guy to where, and it's not going to be as disrespectful, but it is going to be kind of along the lines of like an Andre Iguodala winning because, hey, this guy, like he changed the series. He like the series kind of flipped on his head with that. Horford had his moment in game 1 with the 6 threes, but if you're able to get it there, if you're able to get the Celtics up 1-0, and then for the rest of the series, like if they're switching and Horford plays, fantastic defense on Curry whenever they switch out, he's there on both sides. So I think at 11-1, that's a great price.
Yeah.
That's a great price for Horford.
I think that, you make the points about like Jaylen needs to kind of significantly outplay Tatum because the narrative on Tatum kind of changed as the game was going on. And I said to a few buddies, and again, Tatum played fine. I'll bring back up his stats. Had 13 assists. So at least he did something to make up for the loss. But like the narrative on him changed completely. Because let's say the Warriors hang on to, they don't blow it in the fourth quarter. The Warriors win kind of easy, right? Like take the lead.
Oh, it's all on Jason Tatum.
It's
the
like, oh my God,
him.
Jason Tatum, like first finals game, shoots 3 of 17 from the field. Like what an egg. Like the narrative changes to, wow, Jason Tatum, way to adapt. And, his shot isn't falling. He dishes out 13 assists. So again, I get that he did dish out 13 assists and he, that is true. Like, there's two sides to every coin, but to me, Al Horford had like a loud 26. And if this series goes on as we see, and let's say the Celtics win in 5 or 6, this game 1 is likely the game that was like the turning point. Usually you see the turning point in like a game 5. So to me, Al Horford has the leg up on everyone because he had that big, outing in game 1 because we could look back on this series and say this series turned right here in game 1 and turned the tides in Boston's favor, even if they lose game 2. So I just think it's something to keep an eye on. But I want to talk about game 2 specifically because there's a lot of narratives that could go into this. Warriors -4. I see -4.5 also around. Total 215.5, up 2 points from the game 1 close. Do you see this as the Celtics kind of, take their split, get back home? Like, okay, we know we got this team. We're going to try and take a 3-1 lead at home. Are the Warriors outgunned? It sounds like you're kind of leaning towards the Warriors still to come back. Obviously, winning this game would be huge. What do you see in game 2? You mentioned some adjustments. How do you see game 2 playing out?
I see the Warriors winning this game. And I told somebody, I think I told one of my friends that no matter what happened in game 1, like game 2 was the game that I thought that the Warriors kind of had in the bag because while I didn't,
I saw Golden State definitely taking game 1. Get the Celtics on their heels.
No, so everybody was saying like, oh, Boston, they're coming out off of this off of this crazy physical 7-game series, this and that. The Warriors, if I'm shocked that they lost game 1 because of how they lost it, because the fact that they got outscored 40-16 in the fourth quarter. But if you would have told me going into the game, like, hey, Boston actually came in, they took control kind of early, and they stole the game 1. I wouldn't have been shocked. I would have been like, I thought that the Warriors were going to win, but if you told me that happened, I wouldn't have been shocked. So game 2 is the game that I've always been like, no matter what, they're going to get game 2. I think that a couple things have to happen in game 2 for it to play out in this Warriors' favor. One, Gary Payton has to play. And the reason why is because we both know that Jason Tatum is going to have a bounce back game. He's going to come back. He's going to play well. It's what he normally does. The Warriors, if they have this lineup of Steph, Poole, Clay, Draymond, and like Looney or something, or even Wiggins, right? Let's say they go with like the pool party lineup or something like that. They don't have enough defense to be able to double Tatum and stop him from getting his. And so like Gary Payton has to play in order to give them some type of one-on-one matchup so that the rest of the defense can rotate and cover everybody else. That's kind of my main thing. That's the main thing that I want to see from Steve Kerr is I want to see him put Gary Payton in the game.
What question for you? Do you think he's not actually healthy? Like it didn't even seem like he was in the game. There's a chance.
I'm worried he's not.
Yeah, like there's a chance like he's active, but like it makes no, you know what I mean? Like he could be active, doesn't mean he's gonna play. So like, I was expecting him to play just because he was like ruled active and stuff. First of all, it's worth noting Otto Porter looked very good, and I think he's gonna play a role in this series big time. I think him and Wiggins can have big series as like maybe more so than Draymond. If like Wiggins and Otto Porter could get going from three, I think that's something that could tip the scales in the Warriors' favor. More. Because, Clay could get hot and stuff like those. Yeah. The role players hitting threes, like even Iguodala hit a three, a big one in the third. That's important. But back to Gary Payton. Part of me thinks, and I'm not going to go all the way, but there's a chance he's just not healthy and not actually ready to play. It's more of a gamesmanship, you know what I mean, tactic.
Yeah, no, it makes sense because
I do agree with you though that he also has a role in this series.
Yeah, it is very interesting because I saw, and I know that they've been saying that he's been on track, to be active and to play, but I keep looking at it and I'm like, yo, this guy broke his elbow 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago. You broke an elbow and now you're just walking around with no cast and you're ready to play in an NBA game and do all that. It seemed kind of weird, but I want to ask you on this, right? So the total's at 215.5. It's moved up. I was kind of surprised at how open the game was from the jump. I figured that there was going to be a point. I figured that there was going to be a point where either Boston goes on a run or the Warriors make their third quarter run and the number maybe goes up, but the game still feels kind of enclosed, a little more defensive. It felt like everybody had enough space to move and do whatever they wanted to do. Do you think that this game is going to be another over game and it's going to be as wide open?
Yeah. So what I saw from the game was it looked like both teams, not necessarily run and gun, but it seemed like both teams didn't want, especially the Warriors, they didn't want to play in the half court. Off of misses, they wanted to beat the other team up, not necessarily go for layups, but just get into their offense with 19 on the clock, not walk it up and get into their offense with 12 on the clock and force up a shot. So to me, the pace was pretty loosey-goosey where we're getting shots put up. The ball was bouncing around. Are the Celtics going to shoot so well from three again? Not necessarily, but
no.
A lot of the threes they took though were open. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Derek White hit a few late that were kind of give me a break. But Horford's threes were open. They hit a few corner threes that were open. I do think that these games are going to stay, especially early in the series, are going to stay pretty up. I don't want to say up tempo because the pace was only around I think 93 possessions. So it wasn't a crazy frenetic pace. Just the shot making was very good. I kind of lean towards the over. I think that there were a fair amount of foul shots. I wonder how the refs are going to call it. I lean towards the over. I don't think 2 points is necessarily enough of an adjustment. I'm trying to pull up the free throws while I'm here.
Yeah.
Listen.
But to your point on the refs and how they're going to call it, they for the most part they were out of it, and this is the first game we kind of.
There were only 31 free throws total, so it wasn't a crazy. Okay. Each 16 free throws for the Celtics, 15 for the Warriors. It wasn't the game was pretty much an over game for the most part of the game. It was kind of always trending over, especially after that first quarter. So I lean over again. I think I think maybe this is the game, and then it starts to dip back down towards a slower, more typical finals game.
Yeah, that makes sense though.
I think the key for the Warriors, though, if we're talking about how they win this game, And I think if you want to play the Warriors, you may want to look towards like Warriors alternate spreads. Because if it's close, I kind of lean towards the Celtics. I just think they have more answers. If I think the Warriors, like I'm trying to draw up how the Warriors win. I think you could see like Warriors kind of go nuclear from 3 and like don't let the Celtics back in, and maybe take like a Warriors like -7.5 at like +150, as opposed to taking like your standard juice. You know what I mean? I think Warriors winning in a blowout is almost as likely as Warriors cover a small spread. I think it might even be more likely, or Warriors team total over might be your look, as opposed to Warriors covering the spread. So that might be my look, that and the over, because to me, the Celtics had 33 assists on 43 made baskets. To me, that shows that the Celtics offense is kind of humming. On the other end, Warriors 24 assists on 39 made baskets. So I kind of lean towards the Celtics going more ISO heavy. I actually think that Tatum might not have the bounce back game, or if he does, he's gonna have a very low assist output, and it might be just him kind of playing hero ball, and that's not going to work. So I think the Warriors, they let the Celtics go like swing too much into an open 3. The Warriors rotations have to be a little bit more crisp, in my opinion. That's why I think you're going to see a lot more Otto Porter and Andrew Wiggins lineups, maybe less Kevon Looney, but at the same time, the Warriors were crashing the glass really well. So maybe I think that's an interesting choice for Steve Kerr to make. Do you go just Draymond alone and let him fight on the glass? Or do you say, you know what, we're going to try and rack up a lot of second chance opportunities, leave Looney in there, let Draymond and him battle on the glass and kind of overpower the Derek Whites of the world, the undersized big men. So I'm curious how that is going to go. But so if you were to give out a bet right now, I don't know if you locked anything in, but what do you think in game 2 before we get to Saturday's best bets?
Yeah. So two things before I do that. So one, Klay Thompson's minutes are they have to go down to make room for Otto Porter, and I do agree with that. And then 2,
telling you, Clay's defense, man, he got cooked a few times also.
Yeah,
he got cooked. He's not the same defender anymore.
2, on your alternate spread point. So I was looking at the numbers yesterday. So the Celtics, after game 1, so this is including game 1, after a win in the postseason, they are 7-6 against the spread. They're 7-6 everything. They're 7-6 straight up against the spread and against the over under. And I think that just speaks to the inconsistency that we've seen from this team. And we've seen several times until it's been like time to close out. We've seen several times that they are not able to take one good performance, take all the good stuff and transfer it over to another game. So I think that the alternate spread is a really, really good play. I think in this one, even if I didn't want to mess with the alternate spread, my best bet for this one would be Warriors -4. I would be absolutely stunned if the Warriors go down 2-0 and if they don't do it in like semi-convincing fashion.
If they lose, sweep?
No, if they lose, Warriors in 7. I'm not picking Boston, Reed. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Okay. All right.
It's not happening.
Okay. I think my best bet would be like Warriors alt spread. So if they win, they win pretty convincingly. So I'd rather save some money on like the juice and take like an alt spread, or maybe Warriors team total over or something. I gotta look more into it. But let's go. I'm gonna give out my Saturday best bet because I know you have a Sunday best bet. You have a Sunday best bet, and my Saturday best bet is gonna be Alexander Volkov in the main event of UFC Vegas 56. I think Donovan is frozen, but I'm just going to keep going. I'll wait till he jumps back in. Alexander Volkov by decision, +180. It's not sexy. It would be a very boring fight, but I like this a lot. I think that Volkov isn't going to win by knockout. I'm going to let Donovan jump off real quick as he gets situated. But I like Alexander Volkov by decision. Early UFC event tonight. 1 o'clock it starts. This main event probably goes off around like 4 or so. Volkov is your standard kickboxer. He has several inches of height and reach on Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's a one-trick pony. He's going to knock you out or he's going to lose a really gross decision. 5-round main events with the UFC, not really sexy, but Volkov, I think he's going to be able to keep this at range. He's coming off a loss of Tom Aspinall. He's a much more active fighter. But if Volkov stays on the outside, he's going to be the minute winner in this one. I think he's going to grind out a decision. To me, if you are betting Rosenstruck, go by knockout. That's closer to 2-1. He's plus 130 on the money line. I think those two wins are tied. All of Rosenstruck's win equity is in a knockout. So, I think Volkov by decision is the best way to play. You could save some money there than just taking the minus 155. Because I will note that Rosenstruck has a really nasty knockout punch. I know Ian McMillan from Jab Cross Hook earlier this week, he took Rosenstruck in the upset. He likes that kind of close underdog by knockout. I'm going to go the other way. I like Volkov to win a really ugly decision. I'm not too impressed with Rosenstruck. I think when he is the underdog, he is meant to be the underdog. So give me Alexander Volkov to win by decision. It'll be really boring 25 minutes as I still wait for Donovan to come back from some internet issues. I'll just rattle off some more UFC bets I have. As we talked about on Jab Cross Hook this week, I took Nicholas Stoles. He is an underdog against Benoit St. Denis. Stoles coming off 2 straight losses, but I think a little undervalued here. I think he's the more complete fighter. St. Denis, he got really lit up in his last fight against Elizeu Dos Santos. Dos Santos should have won by knockout. The ref kind of let that go to decision, but he got ruined. That was only 6 months ago or so. So I don't really back St. Denis as a favorite. Give me Stoles to win as a small underdog. He's around plus 135 right now. Elsewhere in the card, I took Johnny Munoz in the betting draft on Jab Cross Hook. I'm also going to take him by submission in this one. That's kind of the best way for me to play it, I think. He's close to plus 280 by submission. World champion jiu-jitsu winner Tony Graverly, when he loses, he typically loses by submission. Kind of a reckless fighter. He is a favorite. He's minus 130. I think if it goes to the cards, he likely has Munoz covered. But at plus 280, I think that there's enough upside on taking Munoz, throwing half a unit on him by submission. I'll take a shot. Plus 280, I think that's a pretty good payout on Johnny Munoz to win by sub. If Graverly, if this hits a mat, I think Munoz could find a submission. He's only plus 110 on the money line. I think a lot more of it is tied to a submission victory. So I'll take Johnny Munoz by submission. And yeah, those are 3 of the plays. Oh, and then also Alonzo Menifield. Ian spoke about this on Jab Cross Hook. Really confusing fighter. He's going up against Askar Morozov. I took Menifield to win by submission at plus 450, I believe. I sprinkled some plus 600, plus 450, so around like plus 500. Menifield by submission, I think, has some upside. Menifield inside the distance at anything below minus 160, I think, has some upside. This guy Morozov has a really sketchy background. No one seems to know what his true record is. So give me Alonzo Menifield to win in pretty convincing fashion. I don't love him as a fighter, but he is he's at least a UFC pro. This Morozov guy seems like, I don't even know what his deal is. I don't think he really has proven anything. He may be like kind of conning his way into a UFC main card appearance. So we'll see how that goes. Still waiting for Donovan to rejoin. And yeah, so those are all my UFC plays for now. If you want to check those out, those are on my bet stamp at RW33. That's my bet stamp. All my UFC plays will be there. Early start time. Donovan's best bet, his internet cut out. He's got Rafael Nadal in the French Open final, minus 6.5 games versus Casper Ruud. Or here's Donovan to finish out as I filibustered the whole time. There he is. Donovan, you're back.
Wow. Wow.
I kept it rolling for around a few minutes, but your best bet. Rafa Nadal minus 6.5 games in the French Open final.
Yes, listen, it's very clear how great Nadal is on clay. Listen, this is like his 14th final. He's never lost in a French Open final, right? The only he made it to the semis last year, but Nadal in this spot is fantastic. I think he's a little bit rested because he didn't have to play a full match against Zverev in the semis, right? Because it's a walkover that that happened at the end of the second set where, and you kind of seen it. Zverev was getting up on him. He was putting a lot of pressure to maybe take that second set and make this into maybe a marathon match. But I think that the fact that it was able to end early, he gets a chance to rest. He gets a he doesn't have to face either one of like the giants in the final. So I think he has a very, very good opportunity to come in and restamp his legacy as the king of clay. So I'll take him minus 6.5 games. It's minus 110 over at WinBet. Very, very, very solid play for
Yeah,
Nadal.
I think Rafa rolls. But yeah, that's our show. That's our bed and breakfast. Tomorrow, we'll be back here at the same exact time, Monday through Friday, though. We got daily bet slip at 5 p.m. Eastern. Getting you ready for the night in sports, our best bets. For Donovan Smoot, I'm Reed Wallach. Guys, best of luck on your bets, and we'll talk to you guys soon.